Hello and welcome to Sport Tonight. I'm Cecilia Mogbe in Lagos.
Wherever you are in the world watching us in London, I'm Austin Okorakwan Cecilia, always an action-packed all of sports. I'm monitoring action going on in the Europa League. Good one for Victor Osimhen and Galatasaray. I see the Edo Queens and the CAF Women's Champions League on the menu. And of course, the National Sports Commission. What's the vision, the goals and objective of this new sports structure in Nigeria? Definitely, Cecilia, that's what will get us talking tonight.
Definitely, that National Sports Commission, the new structure, what to expect from this commission this time around. Sheodiko will be joining us on the show later on. But as Austin mentioned, we've got CAF Women's Champions League. Yes, it's 2 days to the commencement. It's happening starting on Saturday. And of course, we know Edo Queens is representing Nigeria. The third team to be doing that. Bayelsa Queens couldn't, Delta Queens couldn't do it the last time. But Edo Queens, they're ready and raring to go. And the sweet thing about the CAF Women's Champions League is the fact that for any clubs participating at all, there's a guarantee of $150,000 US dollars. That's upward review from what they had before last season, which was 100,000. Of course, the winners will be having 600,000. We'll give you a breakdown of that on the show tonight. And also, yes, Austin later on will give us updates coming from Europa League. Yes, Victor Osimhen, as he mentioned, scored 2 goals, a brace for Galatasaray to beat Tottenham Hotspur. That game is over, ended 3-2. And also, yes, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, they will be back in action. The final round of qualifiers is taking place this month. So from on the 11th, they will be at Benin Republic to play against the Cheetahs on the 14th. And after that, they come back home, Uyo, to wrap it up with Rwanda. Of course, they just need a draw to qualify. We have the full list of the players that will be prosecuting those games. And of course, Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman. These 2 guys are hot shots in Europe right now. They are part of that squad. There's a return. Sadiq Umar, you remember him? Yes, he's back in the squad. And of course, one home-based player, central defender, made that list for Augustine Eguavon. We'll give you the details of that list on the show tonight. And of course, we'll touch down on the UEFA Champions League. What is happening with the Gunners? They've been gunning down, for the last 3 or 4 games. It's not looking pretty for the Gunners. Well, Arteta will be speaking on the show tonight. Yes, talk about what they need to do. So kind of what will happen. Yes, we know there are a lot of injuries and everything, but Arteta will be speaking on the show tonight on what happened in the Champions League in their 1-0 loss to Inter Milan. It's a loaded package as usual. And of course, we're going to be starting off with the big one, which is the CAF Women's Champions League. The prize money is getting higher every season. Austin, remember when we talked about the CAF Women's Champions League, we were talking about expansion, and the head of CAF Women's Football talked about the fact that they want to ensure consistency and not just that, to make this very competitive. And after that, they can start thinking of, the expansion and everything, make it more attractive, have other clubs being able to attract international players coming into it. And from what they've started now, it seems this is the way to go with increment on the prize money.
It is, Cecilia, and when you talked about the participating teams to receive $150,000 each, for me right there, that's Mosepe achieving his objective of turning football in Africa into serious business. I can imagine what Edo Queens can do with $150,000 US dollars. That can do a lot. And then it comes, with a lot of responsibility also, because when this sort of monies are being given for the development of women's football, we want administrators to actually use it for women's football. You've talked about expansion. And you see, when you talk about expansion, it comes with more funding, and there must be proper financial analysis and budgeting into it. I like that we have 8 teams. Let's look at these 8 teams. Let's see the quality of women's football in Africa. Let's see where they really need help, The champions, just think about it, 600,000 US dollars. That can do a lot. I just try to imagine Edo Queens going back to Benin City with that money, And then now we know that we did serious business. We made serious business when we say it is what you sow, you will reap. So with this sort of monies we're talking about, Cecilia, league football in Africa, when it concerns women, people, we know that it's serious business and we need to give it the attention that it should get to command good revenue, Cecilia?
Yeah, good revenue, of course. Let's give you the breakdown of what this money is like, starting from the champions, of course. The champions will be going home with 600,000 US dollars. That's upward review from 400,000. That was what the winners got last season. And for the runner-ups, last season it was $250,000, but right now is $400,000. The third place is $350,000. Of course, a fourth place, $300,000. And for the third place group stage, that's those at the group stage at all. If you're able to finish third and not finish at the bottom, if you've been able to win at least a game, you go home with $200,000 each. And of course, for the first place, at least for participating at all, even if you had to come in without winning any game at all, you will be going home with $150,000 US dollars. So that's what it's happening. And of course, there's just this guarantee, as long as you're participating, you've qualified already. I mean, you can go home with $150,000. I hope Edo Queens will not stop here. They can go as far as, just climb up 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, get this one, and then they come back home with the trophy. That's if they can do it. But the good thing is about this Edo Queens, because some of them have international experience, where you have players that play for this at under 17 level, at under 20 level. So it shows a whole lot. Now, let's take a look at the teams that will be competing in these prestigious tournaments. Mamelodi Sundowns, of course, South Africa, they are the holders. I mean, 2 times champion. We've had 3 editions. Mamelodi Sundowns winning 2. Aswa of Morocco, of course, they're hosting. They won the other edition. For Angel de la Medina of Senegal, Wafu A, they are champions of Wafu A, and that's why they are here. Of course, they're Edo Queens champions of Wafu B, West Africa, and that's why they are also here. University of Western Cape Town. I mean, these 3 teams I've just mentioned, they are making their debut in the tournament. Of course, from South Africa, they're also making their debut right here at the CAF Women's Champions League. UNAF FC Massa of Egypt. CBE is another team. They're making their debut, of Ethiopia making their debut. And of course, UNIFAC, champions, talking about TP Mazembe of DR Congo making their return to the Champions League. So you have like 4 teams making their debut. And of course, you have other 4 teams that have been here before. But only 2 teams have won it in the last 3 editions that we've had. So he's going to win it. And this one's going to go home with 600,000 US dollars. Fingers crossed. The best team would definitely win. But Austin, I was speaking to the media officer of Edo Queens earlier today, so he was talking about their preparations. I hope we can have him on the show tomorrow, because they'll be training between 1 to 4 p.m. tomorrow in Morocco. They're already gearing up. And of course, that blend of international players they have. Monley, for instance, their goalkeeper, she was the goalkeeper in Costa Rica for the under-20 2 years ago. So it shows that they have that international experience. Of course, their coach was also part of that team in Costa Rica under-20 team. So that experience is coming in. And Folashade Ijamilisu, remember the girl who scored a hat-trick against Algeria, international friendly that the Falcons played. She is also in that squad. So that experience is there, but this is the first time of them going on the continent, going to play against clubs that are professionally run, have the resources. I mean, they've gone on tour. European tour. Mamelodi Sundowns went on European tour after winning the trophy last season. So Edo Queens will have a lot to do to see if they can at least step up a little bit.
I think for me, it even goes beyond the individual talent that is in the team. I think the collective experience that this Edo team, Edo Queens team have gathered right from becoming champions of the NWFL and going out there to conquer the WAFU B and then keep growing together. I think mentally they are sound. And to an extent, because we always ask for more when it has to do with women's football, the Edo State government, they've given it some level of attention. Shout out to the Betsy Obaseki Women's Football Tournament also. All of these things, they work together for good. And that's what we're always saying, that you cannot do a little and expect so much. No, it is that little that you do that you see. So with all what you've mentioned, it's good. And then what I'm talking about now, in terms of experience and the mental strength that is in this team, and the fact that now we've talked about good revenue that can come out of women's football, it means administrators, both those in the Edo State government and those in the Nigeria Football Federation and the NWFL, Cecilia, they will all see the need because, as I said, when I saw the prize money for the champions, $600,000 US. I was like, this is so good. You know, I love Patrice Motsepe and what he's doing in terms of letting people know that, look, this football that we are playing with in Africa, it is sustaining economies in Europe and South America, so we shouldn't play with it. So I like it. Let's keep pumping out those sort of figures. Let people get serious and understand that we can use football and the business side of it to improve our economies and empower the girl child. Cecilia, I think that's what we should be talking about, you know. So shout out to Edo Queens. Whatever happens, they will be going back to Benin City with $150,000 US. And that for me is already a win. And that we can demand for so much more. We're hoping to have Shehu Diko sit down, relax, Cecilia, so we get into that conversation. The National Sports Commission, what's the goal, the vision, the objective? So much has been said about this new National Sports Commission right after the Minister of Sports Development was scrapped. Can anything good come out of it? Shehu Diko, chairman of the National Sports Commission, and he is sitting in our studio in Abuja because we want to have a frank conversation. So if Shehu Diko is ready, let's go to Abuja. That's the seat of the Federal Capital Territory, the capital of Nigeria, and have this conversation. I'll give it back to Cecilia when Shehu Diko is ready. Cecilia, you just get into that conversation for us and the viewers.
Because when he's ready, we will take him on the National Sports Commission, the plans, the structure, what we need to look out for to see if this one will be different from the ones we'll be having before. All right, while we're waiting for him to join us on the show from our Abuja studios, we will be taking a look at the Super Eagles of Nigeria, of course, the team, 24 players that will be prosecuting that game, the games against Rwanda and, of course, Benin Republic. And I'm going to start off with the goalkeepers that will be in action for that. Of course, Stanley Nwambali, mainstay, #1 right now, plays for Chippa United in South Africa. He's the Udinese FC goalkeeper of Italian Serie A, Maduka Okoye. He's also the Amas Obasoge. He's also right there with the Super Eagles of Nigeria, plays in Ethiopia. And the defenders, of course, Captain William Troost Ekong playing in Saudi Arabia. And, of course, Bright Osayi Samuel of Fenerbahce in Turkey. You have Bruno Onyemachi of Boavista in Portugal. Gabriel Osho is making a return. The last time he was invited, he got injured. He couldn't play. We hope he'll be able to play for Nigeria, playing in Auxerre in France. And Kevin Bassey of Fulham in England. Olaoluwa Aina, also of Nottingham Forest, also playing from England. I mean, he scored the weekend. Victor Collins of Nasarawa United, the only base players. The only home-based player with the squad is among the defenders. Now, let's move forward to the midfielders. Of course, the usual suspect, Wilfred Ndidi, Leicester City, Rafael Oyendika of Club Brugge in Belgium. You have Al-Hassan Yusuf Abdullahi of New England Revolution in the USA, Fisayo Dele Bashiru of Lazio in Italia Serie A, Frank Onyeka from Augsburg in Germany, and of course, you have Alex Wobi, Fulham, plays for the English Premier League. These are the defenders. Now, let's look at the forwards, I mean, where they are all on fire, except for one or two players. Well, Samuel Chukwueze for AC Milan, Serie A, Victor Osimhen, who just scored for Galatasaray in that 3-2 win over Tottenham Hotspur in the Europa League. Of course, Ademola Lookman, Atalanta, Serie A, he scored 2 goals against Napoli, Victor Osimhen's former team at the weekend. Kelechi Iheanacho of Sevilla in Spain, Victor Boniface by Leverkusen in Germany, FC Nantes of France. They're talking about Moses Simon, and of course, Umar Sadiq making a return, plays for Real Sociedad in Spain. So these are the players for the game against Benin Republic and, of course, Rwanda. And as we mentioned earlier, the first game will be played on the 14th and the second on the 18th. The first one, Benin Republic, and the second, Rwanda, will be played in New York. That's how the Super Eagles will wrap up the qualifiers for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. We'll be expecting a Winter Nations Cup in Morocco next year. Austin, I mean, this list, which one gets your attention? We have a fine list, right? But I mean, I'm doubting what Sadiq Oman is doing here. He may not even play, but we don't know. But he hasn't really been scoring. He has made 8 appearances for his team this season, but I haven't seen him score this season.
But he's a professional, you know, Cecilia. And that's why whenever there's a list for the Super Eagles, I try so hard not to, talk about who is in, who is out, and all of those talks that people do. Coach Austin Eguavoen is up close with this team. He knows the players. Sadiq Umar is the professional. I see Gabriel Oshot there also, and people have been asking me, well, who is he? What does he? I said, what do you mean, who is he? Someone plays in the French League on, and you're asking me who is he? He's a professional footballer. And these guys, they play in Europe where it's a plug and play system. So when they come together, they already know what the coach wants them to do. It's all about execution. And if the coach has got tactical depth and discipline, that's why you see sometimes we say, oh, if this player is not around, we won't perform well. Oh, no, that's not talk. Let's find a way to, whenever anybody comes to the Super Eagles team, if you've got a chance to be called up and you have an opportunity to play, you must justify it. One person I always wish can be in this team all day, every day, because he's a box finisher, is Taiwo Awoniyi. But he's not in this team, and the coach understands why, because they've seen him play, But I like the fact that Nasarawa United's defender, Collins, is in the mix. Give him an opportunity to play. When you bring new players and we're asking who is this person, what does he do, give them opportunity to play so that the people can see this guy. And now when you play and you don't impress and they don't call you again, people can understand. But not when they call you, you just come to train with the team and then we don't get to see you again. That's when a lot of persons will talk. But the Super Eagles have passed the stage of where you see somebody come in and you start asking questions. 95% of the names, Cecilia, are they not names that we are used to?
Of course.
Yes. The starting 11 is not touched. Yeah. So we'll definitely see the same guys that have been playing for Nigeria in the last 3 years. And that's what is important. But what I'm saying, and that's what I want to wrap this analysis with, Coach Austin Eguavoen, if you call a new player, whatever made you, whatever justification, whatever that player has shown to you that made you call him, play that player and let him prove a point so that people will not start saying the Super Eagles is the place where people come and do trial and error. That's all that I have to say about this team. I wish them all the best. Important games coming up. Go show them why we are the giants of Africa. And as Cecilia said, hopefully we go to the AFCON and let them know who we are.
Yes, we hope Osho and, of course, Collins will be able to play in this game so that people will know what they are capable of. We just need 1 point in those 2 games for us to be able to qualify. All right, the chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko, is joining us from our Abuja studios tonight. Of course, it's all about the structure, the policy, the things we need to put right to have a viable sport economy. That is what is really important. How do we make the sector, how do we make it great again, better than it has ever been? Shehu Diko joins us on the program live from our Abuja studios. Good evening. It's good to have you, Chairman, join us on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here with you once more.
All right. Should I start with congratulations on your appointment? But then this is, from a fallout from the Olympics, there's a lot going on concerning sports in Nigeria with the outcome of the investigative committee that was set up by the former minister to the structure that you want to put in place. So tell us about the structure that you want to put in place for us to start building, building sports from the grassroots level, then to the elite level, and before we start thinking of winning medals in different international competitions.
Well, I think if I stay here to tell you the structure that we are working on, I think we can take the entire program. But I can just give you a snippet of what we are working on. As we are aware, we are moving from the ministry to the commission, and therefore we don't want it to be like what was done before, where it is just a change of nomenclature. It is the same structure that is obtained as a ministry, which is being run as a commission. No, we have the mandate to work now to set up a clear, professionally aligned commission. So we are building everything like basically using the resources around the ministry to now create a commission from ground zero that will be able to deliver precisely what is required to develop football, sports in Nigeria, football, and boxing, athletics, and everything sports in Nigeria from level up. So first and foremost, what we are working on now is to tidy up the legislation. Yes, we have the Act for the National Sports Commission, but still we believe we have to up the scale of the Act to make it fit for purpose, to be able to deliver on the vision and the objective and the mandate that Mr. President have given us, which is basically to create a sports economy in Nigeria, and also to set the sustainable framework for sports development that will now translate to future medals and laurels that will come to Nigeria in the future. So basically, that's the first step that we are working on now. Well, once that is sorted, then we also have to now reorganize the structure of the commission to be able to deliver what is provided in the Act, like the structural organization of the commission to drive the process with the right structure, the right personnel, the right capacity, and everybody will be focused on clearly on the delivering what the amended states in the Act. So that is also being worked on. We are also working on that. We are already interfacing with the existing mini-ministry staff and personnel and see what they have and see how we can integrate to create the license structure we want to do. By and large, as per the structure, what we want to do is to go back to the grassroots by creating at least empowering our 6 zonal mandates, which will have directors or whatever, executive directors or commissioners, federal commissioners or sports that are dealing for each zone that are already that will be operating and delivering the mandate within that zone while we are coordinating whatever they are doing from the center here. So,
all right.
Then there are other steps we are taking about the policies, about the framework. That all will have to come in play as soon as we finish the first 2 steps. But the fundamental at the moment.
All right. Yeah.
The fundamental at the moment is to tidy up the Act, which is the benchmark that will now jumpstart everything we want to do.
All right. We need to pause right here. We'll go on a very short break. We'll be back with you after this time out. Welcome back. Austin, I know you got lots of questions for Shehu Diko concerning the Sports Commission. Over to you.
Yeah, Shehu Diko, congratulations once again on your appointment as chairman of the National Sports Commission. You've said very important things. I like the way you started, particularly letting us understand the mandate from the president, which is develop sports economy. You're working on the Act and some other things I've seen. I know you've not really gotten into the groove, but with what you've seen on ground, what area do you think is important for us to start working on to develop sports in Nigeria?
Well, Austin, good to see you once more. I think, all the areas are very, very important. They are very, very, we can't isolate one from the other because I think they have to go pari passu to be able to get the right framework we want to work with. But fundamentally, the main issue of sport is about funding. Because the moment you can be able to resolve the funding issue and get a sustainable flow of funding into sports, about 80% of the problem is resolved. Because with the funding, you can build the infrastructure, you can hire the right personnel, you can hire the right technical people. You can pay the athletes the right way. So everything will come together. So in fact, part of also what we are working on from the Act is to see how we can resolve the funding issue by creating the National Sport Development Fund. Through that fund, we can be able to create a lot of process and other means to be able to generate funding, both from the legislation and also through private sector that will come and support sports. So once that is done, then the other ones are going to be developed. But the main focus, as we said, we want to create a sport economy. So we are trying to move the Nigerian sports ecosystem from being consumption-driven, whereby we are only focusing on competitions and events and stuff like that, to go back to the production-driven, which is development. So it should be driven by the development. So we have to start development from grassroots, bottom up, from the grassroots level to the semi-professional to amateur to professional level, all through the school sports. Everything has to come together at once so that we can be able to have a proper development process, clear pathway for everybody to know if I want to participate in sport, this is where I want to go. You can see I was having a meeting with the Nuga people like 2 days ago, I think also. You know, it's part of the objectives. We have to bring back the Nuga games. And for the Nuga games, what we are saying, we have to create like 6 centers of excellence with the universities. For each zone, we should have a university that will have the proper sports facilities, sport training, the equipment, also the technical personnel that will be able now to train the athletes that are in school, so that they can, before they can go to the professional level. And also we have to cascade that down, to go to the state and work with the subnationals also. They have to also gain some secondary schools as well, and primary schools. That would be also center of excellence. So when the kids are the child, we can be able to know a primary school, somebody who has the potentials. They can go through those center of excellence for the primary school. If they are good enough, they can go through the center of excellence to the secondary school. They are good enough, they can go to the university center of excellence. So they can develop their sports and be able to be professional sportsmen without also compromising their education. This is what happened all over the world. And even if you look at the last Olympics, I think almost 40% of the medals that were won at the Paris Olympics were won by schools, by athletes that are coming from universities and schools. So we have to do that. And then we have to also create the academies. We have to develop facilities across the country. Each neighborhood should be able to have a small facility of sports so that there is also an opportunity for the kids that from when they are young to be able to be identified. And then we have a clear process. We have a clear database. We know who is who right from when they are young, and we can follow up on that. And then develop also the professional sports at some level where we can get the domestic leagues to work. From the football domestic league to basketball domestic league to whatever it is, to get other sports as well to have their own competition regularly, so that there is also a pathway to see to everything to develop.
I like it so much, particularly that you've just made us realize that we've just been consuming by attending competitions that we need to produce, and the schools, colleges of education, that's a good place to start. Thank you very much. Let's talk about that sports economy. That is very important, that we address the issue of funding. You landed mentioning the football league, the basketball league. How important are the league systems? And can we look at league football, league basketball in Nigeria? Do they have any potential to contribute to this sports economy that you intend to build?
Yeah, of course. The entire sports economy you want to build must be driven by the domestic leagues for both sports. For example, the sports that have leagues, for example, those leagues are the ones that drive the sports economy. If you go to the global practice, for example, most major countries, their sports economy is being driven by the domestic football league. Imagine if you go to UK now and take away the Premier League. What's the sports economy? It is the Premier League that they make very good and very, very sustainable, very attractive, multi-billion pounds business, which is now working for them. And also, it is through the backbone of the Premier League they are driving other sports. I can tell you they are taking money from the Premier League and putting in other sports, in other grassroots programs, and to do that. So we have to also focus on the domestic league to make them very, very professional, very, very attractive, and get the right investors, get the right infrastructure. So without all this in place, we can't be able to do that. That's why we said our vision and our focus is standing on 3 pillars. The first pillar, we have to agree that our sport is a national asset. So if you agree on that, then sports should be entitled to special privileges, special concessions, special legislation and a framework to be able to drive its growth. So that's why the government will come in, to be able to provide all that enabling environment to do that. Then the second level, we have to now do all this legislation. Apart from for example, the NSC Act, which is the foundation, we have to have specific regulations and framework also that will protect and drive sports to move forward. We have to, for example, the NBC code. There's a sports section there also that tries to protect and promote and drive sports in Nigeria. Those has to be reinforced. We have to create legislation to guard against capital flight. If people sit down and understand the amount of money we are taking out of Nigeria by supporting all this craze of the consumption of the foreign sports in Nigeria and taking abroad, we'll have to think back and decide that this funding should be trapped here and use it to develop domestic sports. So we have to work on that. And then there has to be a massive investment in infrastructure. because without the right infrastructure for both the professional sports and the grassroots sports, they're not going anywhere. So these three pillars are the benchmark and is the foundation of what we are going to lay to see how we can move forward. And then fundamentally, as I said, if we get the National Sport Development Fund working, we get the concessions that will be given to the private investors, the sponsors who are coming to invest in sports. You know, there is some work that has been done on this lane, which I think we are going to reinforce it and see how we can activate it as quickly as possible. So all this must come to play at once. Once it's done, then we can see the going to competitions will be very, very seamless, and winning medals will come naturally. Part of the policy we are trying to introduce now is to tell the federations, sporting federations, that we will not support them to be going abroad for tournaments, for competitions, except they demonstrate and show clearly they have a clear developmental program. You cannot be sitting down as a federation, you have no developmental program, you are not doing anything in domestic sports, but you are packing people to go abroad and attend tournament and spend the hard-earned dollar and come back and say what? So all this we have to get to wrap together, and then we can see how we can, within the shortest period of time, we can see how everything will come together and we'll move forward.
Okay, I love the fact that you mentioned federation just, taking athletes, go over internationally and compete, spending so much money. Now, we have some federations usually that before now were very big in terms of competition, in terms of leagues, in terms of development. Basketball is one of it. But right now, for the past 4 or 5 years, for the past 4 or 5 years, I mean, since COVID, 4 years or more, even more than that, we haven't had like a viable league in the Nigerian Basketball Federation. You just have them having maybe under 1 month or 1 month, a month, having players together, play for 2 weeks, first phase and second phase, and then you have winners. We don't have like a stretch at that. But we've seen other federations who are trying to do the right thing by having a stretch of league. Now, if you come up with that policy that if they cannot go outside to compete without showing that developmental structure, does that mean when we are going for Afro-Basket, for instance, where we have most of our players are based abroad, they may not be able to travel?
No, you see, that one is like global competitions like that. And yes, we all have to work to see that there is a clear developmental program. We can't just be focusing, what development are we doing, for example, if we always wait only until the competitions are at the corner and we go to America and everything and pack everybody to come and play and go back. How does that help the domestic sport? We're not saying we should not do that, but they must go pari passu. There has to be a developmental program, and we will have to work together to see how we can source the funding, how we can work with the federations, see how those things are done. Done the right way. So it's not like a punitive move. No, it's a move that we have to collaborate together to see how we can develop it. One of my aides is telling me that some years back, he was secretary of badminton many years ago. They were having like about I think 32 competitions per annum. Every year they have 32 competitions all over the country. Badminton. Players that are playing badminton are buying brand new cars because there's enough competitions with enough sponsors for them to participate and make and add money. So we all have to work, together with the federations to get that done the way we envisage it should be done. It's not like we are trying to punish anybody or trying to stop anybody. No, let's work together to see what we could do. And that is why even in the part of the framework we are trying to work on, to see whether we can have a central marketing board under the commission that will help the laser federation to be able to source money, because there are some sports on their own level they cannot be able to source money because they are smaller sports. They don't have the kind of capacity muscle to go and get the big brands to support them. But if you put those sports together into one pool, you can be able to get a big brand that can support them, and then the money can go down through all the sports, so that they can all be able to activate their programs and be able to start their developmental programs and get this going properly.
Okay. There's this Adopt an Athlete project that is already going on. Adopt a Facilities project already going on. Do we take it a notch higher to adopt a federation, for funds to actually come to some federation? Because you've talked about the fact that most of our sports, it's all consuming. There's actually no revenue coming back to, to these federations.
Yeah, of course, it's part of the global plan that we have. We will do everything to be able to get the right. Whatever we will do to get funding to the federations, we will do to help them. We'll collaborate with them to help them to do it. And with our own competence, our own capacity, our own experience, I think we should be able to work with them to do that. So the adult athletes, for example, you can see it was a very good program, but it's only isolated a program where mainly is the elite athletes that are mainly benefiting. So we have to up the game and see whatever we could do to collaborate with the federations, to work as partners, to see whatever we could do to get the right funding through to them, through the private sector, so that they can be able to deliver on their own mandates.
Let's take the conversation to the streets now, the people who own our sports. People have said to me, Austin, this chairman of the NSC is a football man 100%. He's just going to come and give attention to football. Will you give attention to just football?
I don't know why people are saying that. Yes, they know me a lot with football, but I've done a lot of work also behind the scene to promote other sports. For many decades. I don't know how many ministers of sports I've worked with and how many committees I've served over the last 20 years at the ministry, at the state level, at the federal level. Including the Vision 2020 committee to be able to drive sports forward. But people should not have this fear about football or what have you. They say football is the king of sport or whatever it is, but we should use football to be able to drive the other sports, and we should be able to give equal opportunities to all the sports. There's no need to isolate one sport and say we are putting all attention to that sport. But at the end of the day, we have to also work on our comparative advantage. Which are the sports that give us the comparative advantage, either to get medals or either to develop our own the sports economy we want to do. For example, if you look at it, football in Nigeria, for example, there's a report that says about 83% of Nigerians are interested in football. 83% of Nigerians, over 200 million people, are interested in football. About 65% of Nigerians are participating in football at some level or the other, either watching the game or encouraging their children to play or what have you. So we should use the popularity of football and the appeal of football to drag other sports to come along with us, so that they can all develop within their own comparative advantage and within their own capabilities. But what I want to assure everybody is the fact that all sports will have equal opportunity to develop and to move to the next level without any discrimination. But once we are going to the competition and we look at medal prospects, we have to look at where clearly we think we can get the medals, and we'll put more energy on those particular comparative advantage to be able to at least see that we earn some medals in those games that we know we are good at.
But I want you to elaborate. And kudos, Olaleya, thank you so much for your questions. I'll just touch on it. Shehu Diko, we have a country. Our country's sports is highly dependent on government funding. Now, how do you intend to attract the private sector so they can come into our sports, invest in it, and see some level of return on investment?
Well, we go back to the legislation we are working on. The National Sport Development Fund is there. It's a specialized fund that is being created that can be able to drive funding and draw funding from the private sector from so many creative ways into the fund that can be able to fund sports. And then there will be deliberate provisions in the Act that will provide the concessions where the government want to give the private sector for investing in sports or supporting sports. Remember, even in the FRS Act as of today, there are some provisions where if you are donating to sport, you are supporting sport, you can be able to take it off your taxes. But those things are just are not too clear. So many of the private sector don't know how to be able to access those kind of benefits. So with the Act now, we can make it more elaborate. more direct, and then we can the private sector can be able to see if I'm investing in a stadium, if I'm investing in a football club, if I'm investing in an academy, what kind of benefits, tax concessions or whatever that can come to me. Remember, a few months ago during the last season, there was a committee that was set up from the Ministry of Sports then, Minister of Finance, and some private experts to develop those kind of concessions and benefits to the private sector. And I made to understand that even on the new tax bill that people are trying to challenge, for example, there is also already a provisions there that I think the tax people have worked on, where they can support the people investing in sports, or they are making investment in sports and what have you. So I think we will still use the power of the legislation and the power of the framework and to be able to provide a clear-cut process on what kind of benefits that will attract the private sector to come and be part of the sports.
Sure, Diko, for your time on the show. I'm sure you know now we will be calling you every day. And whenever we want you in the studio, please. Thank you so much for answering us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Austin. It's my pleasure always to be with you.
Chairman National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko, speaking to us on the plans, the goals, objective, vision of the National Sports Commission. We wish him all the best and his team. We'll continue to monitor it. Cecilia, there were some crucial things he said, but it's like it's still warming up.
Yeah.
Let's give them some time.
Of course, and when those policies are in place, especially that National Sports Development Fund, we will, be monitoring that and see what the outcome will be. And of course, those federations who are interested in going out to compete and not developing the game here, we will see what's going to happen to them. Since they understand what is at stake right now, develop the sport, and then you have more money, you can compete internationally. All right, let's quickly wrap up the show here. We talked about Mikel Arteta earlier, concerning the loss to Inter Milan. Clearly not happy with that penalty. And of course, with the fact that they haven't been able to win their last 3 games, let's take a listen to Mikel Arteta talking about what happened at San Siro. Especially they dominated large periods against them, but we're left to rule that controversial penalty that he wasn't really happy about.
Well, the worst thing of the night, for sure, is the result, because the performance, the attitude, the dominance that we showed against one of the best teams in Europe in this stadium. I haven't seen it, all the games that I watched, but the reality is at the end is the results. And we participated on that because we have many situations that we can resolve much better in front of goal and score at least 2 goals. And then extremely frustrated as well because there are 2 decisions that at the end marks that results and the course of the game. Well, I don't understand. It's just a deflection. There is no danger at all. You cannot react because the ball is very close. But okay, they decide that it's a penalty. But then if that's a penalty, the one on Mikel Merino, when he punches in the head, it has to be 1000% a penalty. And these are the margins in this game, and very difficult to accept. The result, and obviously that in both boxes, at the end we didn't do what we have to do. When we didn't, then someone else didn't. And that's it. But for sure, this is the way that I want to see my team. And all the big games that we have played in Europe, by far, this was the best one that we played in the last few years.
Yeah, 2 wins in the last 6 games, not a good one for Mikel Arteta. Of course, that loss is something he's not taking lightly. Austin, we need to go. Updates from Europa League before we sign out.
Yeah, I know some interesting results. For instance, Karabakh went to Bodo Glimt and they won 2-1. Eintracht Frankfurt defeated Slava Prague by a single goal. We talked about the one that had our own Victor Osimhen. He scored a brace in that Galatasaray win over Tottenham. It ended 3-2. Atletico Madrid went to Ludogorets and won by 2-1. There was the game still going on. Ajax taking on Maccabi Haifa. There's AZ Alkmaar taking on Fenerbahce. So much. We'll come back tomorrow to talk about it. Action battle. That's the show. In London, I'm Austin Okonak, and in everything you do, remember, keep talking sports. Bye for now.
And in Lagos, I'm Cecilia Mogbe. Have a good night's rest.